Hey everyone, today we're going to be talking about what I've learned and distilling it into a very simple concept after reading and watching and looking at many books, articles, videos, commencement speeches from a lot of successful people who have excelled in life and love what they do to create the ultimate uh, advice for finding that ultimate passion that you love and makes the most wealth possible. So I've looked at and read a lot of books like So Good They Can't Ignore You by Cal Newport, stuff by Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, uh, Good to Great by Jim Collins is a great one, Ty Lopez, a lot of lectures and videos and commencement speeches from Steve Jobs to a lot of people that you're not familiar with who own businesses or are psychologists or are very successful. And so here's the general idea and the general simple advice. You want to stick to a field or skill that you are passionate about and love doing, and also know that you can do well in this field without letting your ego move you away to places that you know you're not good at, but you think you can get better at. So that's the general idea behind it. And let me just explain that more. Um, so first off, you have to find something you're passionate about, because this foundation will act together with the other foundations to fuel propelled success. Because if you can find something like this, while you're working, it won't feel like work. You will enjoy it and feel fulfilled, happy, and in a state of flow doing it. And also, you won't be like all pissed off and angry or bored or anything like that while doing it. Well, you may be still, it may still be stressful, but don't get that wrong with being bored or unfulfilled doing it or just not like it. The second thing is it will propel you to do all sorts of tiny, small things that put you ahead of your competition. So these things are stuff like you practicing it in your free time, you learning about it in your free time, you just enjoy it so much that you put in extra work, effort into it every single day, and that slowly puts you that much ahead of your competition. And you can kind of see how that all works together. On the flip side, that happiness will also add on and propel you to greater results. Now for the foundation of doing something that you know you are good at and you know you can excel at and be one of the best at. So this allows you to have that potential and grow, and it also implies that you have the genetics or talent or just skill set or personality to do well with this. Now this often may require a objective lens, maybe someone who's not your friends or family to really tell you, well, sorry, singing is not your gift, honey, or dude, you gotta try something else. This ain't working. I know you think you will be the best actor in the world, but you suck at acting. So things like that. And if you can find something you are very good at, you may be just genetically inclined to be talented at it, but that's oftentimes not enough. It helps, but also you have to have a skill set or skills and work ethic to know that maybe you can become the best at this. If you're looking at a business entity, they oftentimes, based on their resources and what they have, they are already positioned in a way to know that, okay, our current business model isn't working, but we can be the best in the world at this new business industry, and I'm sure of it because our factories and so forth work, and this is where it's headed. So we have to we throw away the old, start with the new, and it's gonna be tough. You know, there's a lot of sentimental value in the old, but this is where we're headed, and that's exactly the philosophy used in the book Good to Great, that allowed these industries to figure out what they were good at. A great example is Walgreens, who moved from one industry to follow a simple concept that made them very, very profitable over a 20-year period of time. And what that concept was they decided, okay, our old model of supermarkets isn't working. Our new model is completely different. We want to have the most conveniently located supermarkets with the greatest selection and have the highest profit per entering customer possible. So they did that and they changed their model. They added a whole new selection of products because it was a different time. Before, in the first half of the century, they weren't making. It was the Great Depression. Like people just wanted the necessities. But now they were in a very prosperous age, and they knew they had to change their business model. So what they did was they realized, again, back to the key point, this was something that they were good at, and they could be the best number one or number two at in the industry. And so they followed that through, and it proved very successful. So make sure it's something that you think you can do well at. And oftentimes, hard work ethic and practice and skill sets, which always, as an individual, requires dedication, practice, hours of grinding. That's something that doesn't usually happen when you're born. I mean, talent's something else. That's something you're born with. Actual skill set is something that requires a mentality, a work ethic, maybe even a love for the topic to grind through and work to. So make sure if you have all these foundational things and you stray away from the path of letting your ego make yourself think that you can be the best at everything. And unfortunately, how the world works, I guess we just don't have enough time in our lives to be the best at a lot of things. And you see a lot of people who unfortunately stray and try and do all this stuff. You see like people who are great businessmen or great actors all of a sudden branch into other fields like singing, and they think they could do it all, and it just becomes horrible. It's horrible songs and stuff like that, like Nick Cannon's new song that just came out. But yeah, I mean, it's very interesting, and I think one of the big things, and this comes up all the time, I see, I've seen examples and advice with this example given numerous times by successful people. The biggest one being one of the founders of LinkedIn, professional networking network on LinkedIn.com, and it's worth billions now. He's a billionaire. He gave a piece of advice through a lecture, PowerPoint, and one thing that stuck with me, I mean, there's a lot of good advice in there, but one thing that stuck with me, and this is mentioned numerous times by successful people, the world is a very competitive place. What does that mean? That means there's hundreds of millions of people, not billions. There's like, I mean, I know there's going to be 10 billion people on Earth in 20 years, but because there's so many industries and different sectors and interests and stuff, I don't think it's billions you're competing with. But you're still competing against maybe millions or hundreds of millions of people at your skill set or industry. And the more niche your industry is, or the more niche that job you want is, it can oftentimes be something less competitive. But it's still very competitive, and the more niche it is, it may be more complicated and hard to grasp and learn. So it's very tough out there, and therefore, based on how things work, we just don't have enough time in our lives to really just be a master of all trades, a jack of all trades. And you just got to work. I mean, there's some lenience for being able to spread out, but really it's very useful to just hone in on that specific thing. And one thing that's not addressed a lot, which I will address, is the aspect of finding your passion. I've heard it a lot from successful people. I was lucky in that I found my passion when I was young. And what about the rest of us who are still finding or looking for it or can't figure it out? Well, Steve Jobs says something like, if you haven't found it, don't settle. Once you find it, you will know it immediately in your heart, or something like that, in his commencement speech. And okay, that's kind of true, but what if you are 40 years old and like you need some money now? Sometimes it's better to, be logical, put up some backup options. Don't go like ridiculous. I think this is a huge misconception. People are too high standards. They do the same thing with dating, but in this sense, they're just like, oh my goodness, I this job is not the most amazing thing in the world that just makes me want to tap dance out of bed every morning and jump into this job. Therefore, I'm not going to do that job and I'm going to stay unemployed. They have too high standards, so you kind of have to set realistic goals, figure things out, and just like have some backups that may, you don't may not work properly. There's this great book, and in it, the author mentions to a person she's trying to help, and this female suffered from that same problem of too high standards. And so the author told this female, look, you hate your job right now. How about putting aside these high standards and just trying to find a job you don't hate? It doesn't have to be something you love, but how about something you don't hate? And then work from there. And so you kind of have to baby step it sometimes and not just, go crazy or just throw your hands up and stay unemployed or whatever doing this stuff. Anyhow, moving on from that though, I guess another great example is Arnold Schwarzenegger. And it kind of illustrates how he didn't have all this mumbo jumbo, somewhat propaganda, somewhat bad advice in his head already. He just did his own thing. And the thing with that is, that's how he sort of got into real estate. He didn't do it because he very much loved it or anything like that. He just knew that despite winning Mr. Olympia so many times and all that, he looked around at his colleagues that were working out at the gym, and he knew that there's no money at the time in working out and weightlifting, and he didn't want to rely on it. So he got into real estate, and he knew there was a lot of money in it. And he also had other businesses. He had like a whole tiling business. And so he ultimately went his way and got into real estate, became a millionaire as doing real estate in a time when real estate was very prosperous and there's a lot of big margins to be gained. And I guess he learned to love it. And I feel like for him, it wasn't like I love it or hate it. It's just like he did it and then he learned to love it. He didn't despise it. He just knew like I didn't want to rely on my working out to make the bills or put food on the table. So you kind of have to take that into account. And I guess one could argue Arnold Schwarzenegger is one of those examples of people who managed to hop from success in different areas. He was a successful bodybuilder, then he had a successful construction business where he built and tiled and made houses and patios and bathtubs and stuff like that. Then he became a millionaire in real estate. Then he became very successful in acting, and then he became a governor who arguably is quite successful and arguably done some good things with California. And so you can kind of see like it doesn't always ring true. People give so much different advice. I know there's a lot of people who they're maybe millionaires, and that's the exact advice they give. They're like, I don't know a single person who's ever gotten rich doing more than one thing. You got to stick to your guns, stick to one thing. You don't have that much time on earth. And it's like, well, I guess you gotta have to kind of take all this advice with a grain of salt and really just gauge it. Like, okay, generally that advice is true. When Arnold put himself into real estate or bodybuilding or acting or being a governor, he put like a straight decade of focused work into it. At the time, that was all he wanted to do. And once he achieved a certain level of success, he wanted to move on to something else. And I guess that also illustrates how it can be done. And oftentimes for you, the average Joe, like me, the average Joe, I don't need to be number one or number two at that thing. Like if I'm a decent amount above average, I could be happy. So if that's for you, maybe you don't need to put your whole life behind it. Maybe you will have enough time. You're blessed to not be struck by cancer or a car, to have enough lifetime to be able to take on a second or third profession. But that still means you devote all your time at least for a long time, to one specific thing. And so I just want to conclude with a few quotes by Warren Buffett on this and Charlie Munger. Their advice on this is if you surround yourself with enough people that are very passionate about what they do, the right thing will strike you in time. And another thing that he mentions is, well, find an industry that you're just very curious about and very interested in, and maybe through there you can find your passion. And another thing he said was that, and again, I may be butchering them because my memory's not perfect, but he said that what you can do is find a few of the companies that you admire, and then look at the employees or executives that have positions or careers that you may be interested in, and then start asking them questions or researching what they do. And in time, you'll find one that may interest you. If you want to go the extra step, you can try finding their contact information, calling them, emailing them, tweeting them, seeing if they're willing to meet for lunch or a phone call for an informational interview about their job and stuff. Figure out what they do, and that could lead to a job interview or other things. And so, yeah, that's all I really want to say. And I guess I will conclude with the random fact of the day. This is completely off base of the topic of this video, but here's a random fact of the day. Bill Gates was once asked at an interview with Warren Buffett. I saw the interview. He was asked, well, what should you, what's the best thing you can do to find a career or job that you're passionate about and succeed in life? And one of the things he mentioned was you want to surround yourself with people that are smarter than you or better than you, that are passionate about what they do, and that will rub off on you. It's kind of like, I mean, I've said it numerous times, but it's true. And yeah, I guess I want to conclude with one second random fact of the day that may prove helpful for you. This one is by Tai Lopez, and he said something about the same thing with finding people that you find passionate and are interested in and curious about. And his advice was that if you have trouble struggling with it, perhaps you've already found it and it was already there. It's just you forgot about it or you hid it. And it's not always true, but it rings true oftentimes. I remember speaking to this man who had gone through a prestigious schooling, business schooling, and he said something very similar. So what that means is Tai Lopez said, Tai Lopez is a entrepreneur, millionaire. He said, look to the childhood. Look at your childhood, and were there moments where you just jumped out of your bed and you're just very passionate about something? Now, it doesn't work for everyone, but it can work for you. For Tai Lopez, there were moments in his childhood where he couldn't put a book down. He just kept reading. There were piles of books. For this man that I saw who graduated business school, he said it was, he knew at a very early age that his passion was for architecture, because as a child, he would ride his bike to unfinished buildings and just look at the architecture of these buildings and so forth and marvel at them. So in certain ways, you may have already had those passions, and it may not be so distinct yet. Marveling and looking at the architecture of buildings won't necessarily immediately, it doesn't exactly immediately tell you, you will be an architect in the future. Sometimes, some things you have to work out. But as George Lucas says, sometimes you just have to move towards areas of interest. So that's what he did, and he sort of ignored what his father wanted him to do, which was become a office assistant. And if he would have done that, he would have been miserable. And basically, he moved towards a field of art, and then he moved into photography, which quickly became cinematography. And then he made a 1-minute video, and he loved it. And then slowly, he moved towards that area. And he says that even if he didn't do it this way, there's other possibilities. Had he not stumbled across USC, which I believe was a stroke of luck, if you read up on his history and biography, if he hadn't bumped into USC and gone to that school because of his friend who forced him to take the exam because he didn't want to take it alone, a stroke of luck. He said even if he didn't do that, like he still would have came to a field or career that he was passionate about because of other areas that he followed. For instance, he really liked animation, so he may have, like, even if he didn't go USC, he would have gotten into animation and then up and up and up. And if he didn't get an animation, he was already doing a degree in anthropology, completely off base from cinematography. And had he didn't have that luck chance encounter with his friend and did that whole USC thing and gotten into USC, he will continue as an anthropologist. And George Lucas believes that he would have just gone through, finished anthropology, maybe gotten into National Geographic, and then slowly discovered videos and gotten in there and been like a cinematographer for National Geographic. So what George Lucas is saying is that no matter what, he would have followed his passion to some end that would have worked, rather than conforming to the office job that his parents wanted and been miserable. I'm glad George Lucas did that whole thing, because now we have Star Wars and that amazing everything coming about with Star Wars, which is pretty damn awesome. And I guess I want to conclude with this whole thing, which is that in certain ways, genetically, or whatever you may want to call it, culturally or whatever, just humans naturally, a lot of people in the United States are just naturally following this. You know, I thought maybe you had to learn it or be taught it or read it in a book or hear it from a successful person. But from my observations, I'm seeing a lot of people, Asians, white people, Persian people, Indians, just naturally following this, whether it's because they're just not being fulfilled in what they're doing right now. I just see it all the time. Asian males, Asian females, everything. And there's still, some of them are still a little bit misguided. Like some flip-flop too much from one major to another, and then they're like 6 years into college and it's a complete mess. But I see it a lot. For instance, there's this YouTube channel that has 1.3 million views now. It has a little bit of problems with YouTube right now because its videos are very raunchy. The video is called Prank Invasion. You may have heard of it. And he basically does these videos. Well, he used to do these kissing prank videos, which would get very sexual and very, he would touch their butts and stuff. And unfortunately, I feel like they got taken down somehow because they were too sexual for YouTube and stuff. But now he's still doing pranks. They're not as sexual. He has 1.3 million subscribers on YouTube, and he did a recent vlog where he admitted that he graduated from UC Berkeley, went to Northwestern Law School, and then in his first semester, just like one day, just realized, I don't want to do this. It's horrible. It's 2 a.m. I'm sitting at a desk writing this brief. Do I want to spend the rest of my life here at a desk? And he's like, what am I doing? So without without taking anything with him and leaving all his possessions and everything in Northwestern, which I think is in Chicago, he moved back to California and told his mom and parents that, hey, I want to start a YouTube channel and make my money that way. I'll be much more fulfilled doing that. And everyone told him he couldn't do it. His parents were like, what the heck? But now they're all fully behind it because he has 1.3 million subscribers. And so, that's a very risky thing to do. But I mean, I think from my studies and experiences with successful people, if you don't want to go that extreme, a lot of these successful people in life, and I should do another video on this whole topic, but hell, I'll just add it in here. They oftentimes had hedges or backup plans, and it's kind of a two-forked topic. But if you choose to do it this way, it's helpful because if they failed at that high-risk thing, they had a very stable backup. Bill Gates, if Microsoft didn't go well, he would have just gone back to school. He was very well versed in coding and programming and computer knowledge, and he was sure he would have gotten a job and probably even gotten back into Harvard. So it wasn't a big deal for him. Michael Dell, he dropped out of college without telling his parents. His parents wanted him to become doctor, but he wasn't doing well in school. But here's the thing, though. He didn't tell his parents he dropped out, but immediately when he dropped out, he started this huge computer business, which was making money off of the gate. And even if he failed that, I mean, it was kind of not even risky because off the gate, this whole thing was making money. And then if he failed that, I believe, maybe it wasn't off the gate that he was making money, but he knew there's a lot of money to be made in this field, and he could see it. And anyhow, he started his business, and even if he failed that business, the way that his school worked, he could just re-enroll the next semester, and his parents wouldn't be any the wiser, and he could just go back to his journey of becoming a doctor or whatever his parents wanted him to do. So these are just a few examples on top of Arnold Schwarzenegger's example, just showing how they sort of hedge their bets, or not really hedge, that's a horrible way of saying it. They're not hedging their bet. They just have a very stable, strong backup solution to a high risk, high return payoff. And because of the stable backup solution, they win either way. There's no real loss behind it. There's no big downside. It's a very interesting way of doing things. And then finally, I guess I want to say, what was it? There's another brand of thinking that's just like, there is no option B. Burn your ships, which pretty much means it's alluding to a story where this army, they sailed their ships to this place to attack, then they burned them upon landing so that no one could retreat, and therefore they were fully committed to defeating their enemy or dying. So there's another way of thinking. I read it in a book, I can't remember which one, and they're like, there is no option B. If you have no option B, C, D, or E, or F, your option A will be so strong, and you hate the chance of failure so much and be so scared of it, or don't want it so much, that you do anything you can to make option A succeed. And that's a method that can be used, and I guess the purpose of it is to really motivate yourself and do everything you can to beyond that you normally could to make your option A succeed. So that's another way of doing it. Different strokes for different folks, I guess. Use it based off your personality and what your situation is. Option A does work better if you're not that balls to the wall, let's go get it, get 'em type guy. And you just don't want to have enormous downside if you fail. As always, like, favorite, comment, subscribe. Thanks for watching. See you guys later.